Good day, friends. In today's video, I'll talk about the visit of the American ambassador to India, Sergio Gor, to Srinagar on the 19th of August, where he met Chief Minister Omar Abdullah. Talking to the media there, with Omar Abdullah by his side, Sergio Gor made two statements. One, he said that Kashmir is an important part of India, and then, praising the central government and the Jammu and Kashmir government, he said that Kashmir is a safer place. Safer, obviously, in reference to what it was before 5th of August 2019. Now, before I explain both his statements, put them in a perspective, there is a need to understand the background. There is a need to know where Sergio Gor today is coming from. Sergio Gor represents a declining great power America, which today has a national debt of $40 trillion and whose interest payment exceeds the Pentagon's annual budget, which is more than $1 trillion. Then, as a consequence of the war in West Asia, it is certain that the petrodollar deal that the Americans signed with the GCC countries in 1974 is coming to an end. And with that, what will happen is that the American dollar, as the reserve currency of the world, it will no longer be there, and the American economy will be in trouble. The Vice President of America, J.D. Vance, has acknowledged it when he said recently that dollar may no longer be the world's reserve currency. The Americans should brace for the end of cheap living. Now, as far as the allies of America are concerned, they themselves are in big trouble. As far as the Europeans are concerned, their economy is in trouble and they are headed for a recession. America's strongest ally, biggest ally in East Asia, Japan, that is selling away the US Treasury bonds, which is the American debt, because it wants to stabilize yen. And China is selling away American Treasury bonds in return for buying gold. And we also know that the American dollar is getting displaced by various means, for example, BRICS. So the point that I want to make is that today, for America, only one big market is available, and that is India. And the Indian market was given on a platter by Prime Minister Modi to President Donald Trump when he met him in the White House on the 13th of February 2025. That is the time the two leaders signed the joint statement, and the key word in the joint statement was Mission 500. What this means is that India has committed to a bilateral trade with America of $500 billion by 2030. Now, this is at a time when geopolitical situation of America is also under great strain. Today, the situation is that, let alone being a great power, one of the three great powers in the multipolar world, the other two being China and Russia, America, because of the war in West Asia today, is struggling to even be a regional power. Because the military threats and the security challenges in the Western Hemisphere, from Russia and China to America, they have increased manyfold. So this is one backgrounder we need to understand about Sergio Gor. There's another thing that we need to know, and that is on the 17th of June 2026, on the sidelines of the G7 summit in France, Prime Minister Modi met with President Trump, and Sergio Gor was present at the meeting. And then, once again, Indian Prime Minister committed to a strategic relationship with America, and for America and for Donald Trump, it is Mission 500, the strategic relationship. So, it was not a surprise that Sergio Gor immediately comes back to Delhi, and the next day, which is on the 18th of June 2026, he had a longish interaction, a meeting with Home Minister Amit Shah in Amit Shah's office. Now, the press release that has come out, it has said far too many things, but in my assessment, what Gor had in mind was that he wanted to pay back for the Indian magnanimity of opening up its market to America. And at this meeting, in my assessment, he would have requested Amit Shah that he would like to visit Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory and Ladakh Union Territory. While giving him a clearance to go to the two UTs, Amit Shah would have told him, wait till 15th of August, which is the Independence Day. Therefore, what we see is that on the 18th of August, Gor, he's there in Mumbai, where he addressed the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. And there he very clearly laid out what exactly was his task and how he wanted to go about exploiting the Indian market. Exploiting perhaps is the wrong word, of making use of the Indian market. There he said that in the last 2 decades, which is 24 years, the bilateral trade between the two countries, it rose from a mere $20 billion to $240 billion. And what he wants to do now is, which is in 2026, as the bilateral trade stands at $240 billion, to take it to $500 billion over the next 3 years until 2030. So what is being sought by Sergio Gor is more than double up the bilateral trade in 3 years of what was accomplished in 24 years. And he also very clearly laid out the 5 critical high-end strategic sectors where the two countries will be doing the trade. Which means that when you look at these 5 sectors, it becomes very clear that in the 4th industrial revolution, all the technologies, India will be totally dependent on America, and the technologies spelled out by Sergio Gor, they are artificial intelligence, technologies and semiconductors, aerospace, defense, energy, and critical minerals. And then we see that India, the FDI that it has put in America is $16.4 billion. But if you go and check the figures from the CII, which is the Confederation of Indian Industries, it talks of $40 billion having invested in America, which is supporting 425,000 American jobs. So there is good reason for Gor there is good reason to have gone to Srinagar and made those statements. Now let me explain the reality of those situations. Let me start with what Sergio Gor said, that now Jammu and Kashmir is a safer place. Rather, he said Kashmir is a safer place. Recently, Omar Abdullah, he was talking on the show of Karan Thapar, where he said that today in the Union Territory there are 2 power centers. Actually, there is only 1 power center, despite the fact that Omar Abdullah has 42 MLAs, he has a majority, and he has 16 ministries under him. And why I say that there is 1 power center was explained by Omar Abdullah himself, where he said that all the top bureaucratic appointments are not done by him. They are all done by the LG's office, the IAS and the IPS appointments for the Union Territory. So the point that I am making is that while he kept repeating Omar Abdullah on the show that he wanted statehood, but in my assessment, what he is looking for more than the statehood is the business rules. They being defined very clearly by Delhi, and what business rule means is that who is the final arbiter of dispute. In the ministries that Omar Abdullah is heading as the chief minister, when there is a problem, and there would be ample problems, because the bureaucrats have been planted there or put there, posted there by the LG's office. So who decides the disputes? Is it the CM's office or is it the LG's office? That is what would be worrying him. But besides this, because the people have given him such a big mandate, surely the people expected him to highlight their concerns, and the concerns were known are known to the CM because of his 42 MLAs across the Union Territory. But this is not being done, and I can well see the reason for that, because Omar Abdullah obviously wants to keep his MLA flocks together, and he doesn't want to be on the wrong side of the government of Delhi. So the point is that Omar Abdullah also said on the show that he wants statehood. That is a priority for him. For the Union Territory, it should become a state. And then he goes on to also say that, look, if I look at the BJP agenda, it talks about removal of 370, it doesn't talk about the statehood. See, it's so very obvious that statehood cannot be given to this Union Territory unless they have a BJP chief minister, for the simple reason that there is no normalcy in the state. The situation is not normal. And why I say statehood cannot be given and how it is related to that, I'm sure Omar Abdullah understands. Because what that means is that law and order then would be under the chief minister. For example, Omar Abdullah was chief minister of the Jammu and Kashmir state for 6 years from 2009 to 2015. And how the law and order works in Jammu and Kashmir is that they have a unified headquarters there, which was established in 1993. And under this unified headquarters, what is there is all the security forces, the army, the paramilitary, the police forces, everything comes under that, and it is chaired by the chief minister. When it was the state, Omar Abdullah was chairing that. And if you look at that period, when he was chairing the unified headquarters, he openly spoke about removing Armed Forces Special Powers Act in phases from the state. And we also know about the fact that at that time, the 15 Corps commander, Lieutenant General Atta Hasnain, obviously was against it, and there were open spats between the 15 Corps commander and Omar Abdullah. But things were still fine at that time because the army was still running the Sadbhavna operation. Sadbhavna is about hearts and mind. Anybody who's been there knows that, because at that time, the army correctly identified the center of gravity as the people of Kashmir, that all their problems somehow need to be attended. Now, of course, either the Sadbhavna has completely been abandoned or it has been downgraded. And at that time, the people could protest also, something that does not happen now. Then the media houses were running at that time. News was coming. Now, more or less, there is a ban on independent media in the Union Territory. And why I say it is not normal today is that the Lieutenant Governor, he heads the unified headquarters, and the normalcy can be gauged from the fact that when he moves around, there is a cavalcade of 10 to 12 vehicles that follow the Lieutenant Governor's car. And there is no reduction of forces in the state. Reduction of forces is a clear litmus test of normalcy. And then recently we had the Amarnath Yatra. And there were reports of what sort of a tight security was required for that Amarnath Yatra. However, when the government talks about normalcy, the people want to come to the state. Come to the Union Territory. Kashmir is a beautiful place. There is no doubt about it. So we have seen that something like 1.5 crore to 2 crore tourists, they come to Kashmir. But then Pahalgam happened. And there is no way that the government can stop another Pahalgam, unfortunately, because with so many people in the state, you cannot provide security to every person, especially when this is the sort of security the Lieutenant Governor, when he moves around, he gets. Now, as far as the people is concerned, what is their problem? That has been very well summed up by the Mirwais Omar Farooq himself, who put out a post on X where he wrote that silencing people's voices by arrests and bans will not address their concerns. See, today what has happened is, I am a frequent visitor to Kashmir. I have noticed very clearly that after 5th August 2019, there is a silence, there is a numbness in the people. The people of Kashmir, they feel totally betrayed by what the center has done. जिसे कहते हैं देर इज अ साइलेंस ऑफ द ग्रेवयार्ड, खामोशी है कब्रिस्तान की, एक खौफ है, देर इज अ फियर ऑफ यूएपीए, देर इज अ फियर ऑफ एनएसए, देर इज अ ऑल परवेडिंग फियर, खौफ है वहाँ पर. In my assessment, forget about things being normal, it's a volcano which is waiting to erupt. So this is about the normalcy part, what Sergio Gor was talking about, that it is a safer place. So I don't have to believe Sergio Gor to understand what Kashmir is. Now I come to his other statement that he made, that Kashmir is an important part of India. You know, Hindustan Times newspaper, it's one of the leading English newspapers of India. It has put out an edit today saying that he should not have said this. Instead, he should have said that, Jammu and Kashmir is integral part of India. I mean, this quibbling doesn't matter. What we have to look at is what exactly is the standing of Sergio Gor. That's important. We know that in addition to being the American ambassador in India, he is also the special envoy of America to South Asia and Central Asian republics. Look at South Asia. Here in March 2026, he traveled to Maldives. The president of Maldives did not meet him. Then in April 2026, he traveled to Nepal. The prime minister there did not meet him. Look at Central Asian republics. Undoubtedly, Sergio Gor did a lot of work before the war happened in West Asia. And the work he did was that the Americans were trying to do a mineral deal with Kazakhstan. And they were looking at the passage, the trade route to be the Caspian Sea. And Sergio Gor had also worked out a middle corridor from the Caspian Sea coming to the middle corridor, which is South Caucasus. And this corridor went through Armenia, it went through Azerbaijan. But now what has happened is, because of the war in West Asia, he hardly has this role in Central Asia. And the reason for that is simple. Because everybody knows what Ukraine did was that a commercial vessel of Iran, which was passing through the Caspian Sea. Caspian Sea has always been a trade route, nothing more than that. That was hit. And as a consequence of that, we know that Russia and the Russian President Putin, he has very categorically said that now we need security in Caspian Sea. And as far as the Russians are concerned, the Caspian Sea flotilla now is being strengthened. So the point that I'm making is very simple, that Sergio Gor, unfortunately, because the world is under once-in-a-century change, as I have explained, Americans are not really any longer, their influence is not there in our part of the world. It is receding very sharply. And it is the opposite case with China. China today is not a neighbor of South Asia. It is part of South Asia. Because except for India and Bhutan, all the countries are on board the Belt and Road Initiative. Not only that, the Central Asian republics, the GCC in West Asia, Iran, they all are part of the Belt and Road Initiative of China. And I don't have to say much, but just draw attention to a recent news, a very interesting news that has come. And the news is that the advisor to the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, now he has shown interest to join the Joint Defense Agreement. You know what we call the Makkah Joint Defense Agreement that was signed on August 7th between Pakistan, Turkey and Saudi Arabia. And I have done so many videos explaining that as far as Pakistan is concerned, it is not only its geopolitical profile is increasing in West Asia, where it is part of making a regional framework, it is also now working on an Islamic framework, trying to get all the Islamic countries together in a collective security arrangement. So it is under that Bangladesh also wants to be there. So when you look at all this, it becomes very clear. The bottom line is China is part of South Asia. Pakistan profile has risen. Now it is working on an Islamic framework, which will also come to South Asia, where there are three countries, including Pakistan, the other two being Muslim majority, the other two being Maldives and Bangladesh. So they'll all be part of that. So here is what I want to say. There are facts also about Jammu and Kashmir. You see what exactly has been the American position on Jammu and Kashmir. Then the reality is that Jammu and Kashmir, it is still part of the UN resolutions. And the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, when you look at the territory, Pakistan occupies that, a portion of it. China also occupies a portion of it. So the long and short is it does not matter what Sergio Gor says in Jammu and Kashmir, because as I've explained, he has a motive. He wants to pay back for the Indian magnanimity. The reality is that if India wants peace, if India wants development, then India has to talk with Pakistan for normalcy in Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you very much.